Indigenous reconciliation has to be meaningful. And I know many people are heartfelt when they have a public gathering and they thank Indigenous nations for being on the land. However, I find that to be just the beginning and a Band-Aid. The Indigenous garden and symbolic lodge that's in Nathan Phillips Square, I just found that to be, I don't know how to say this, almost like an insult. I was there at Reconciliation Day, a sunrise ceremony, and there was nobody else that was running for mayor except me. I have friends, of course, and I even got medicine from one nation up north during my stage 4 cancer, 7 bark, and it was very touching. Friends of mine went out on their own regard to help me. I've hunted with people that are Indigenous, and I realize the god-awful experiences they've had. But the problem is we haven't really listened yet. So meaningful reconciliation would need a place to happen and would need us to address it in a deeper way. And what I learned when I went last year is that we need to listen more. And a great place for that, I suspect, would be an Indigenous Park that was curated by Indigenous nations themselves. They could have ceremonies on the land and even have healing lodges and events. And at the appropriate time, we could be included and go and listen. And it would be a pure environment, not this garden in Nathan Phillips Square. And ultimately, at the end of the day, it would be good for business. I'm sure there are Indigenous entrepreneurs could find a way to link that piece of land and what they might have at kiosks or businesses that might run or take turns there. And they could link back to their nations, and they're all different, and they could provide many things that people would probably love to discover. And at the appropriate times, you could attend a powwow. You could just go to somebody who has a hunting and angling lodge, fishing, outfitters, camping, or for that matter, pure business of a sort that they've developed in their nations, and it could link to this Indigenous park that they curate. So it'd foster business in the tentacles across Ontario and be good for bringing people together. And if we listen through that process and they have that land and they curate it, we could actually have meaningful reconciliation if we learn. The second half is, I didn't do it a lot until the last election. I realized how bad it is with homelessness. And often there's a disproportionate number of Indigenous homeless people, and I don't think we have a good count. I can't get down to exactly where this is, but I know someone who does consultation with the Crown when they're sentencing at Osgood. And we have a lot of people who have moved to the city and they found themselves adrift here, and they don't have enough services. And you might say, why? Well, because if you're homeless, you have to provide an address, you're not counted. I have a belief that the number of Indigenous people in Toronto is vastly underestimated. So we need to get an accurate number and provide more money for more services and make sure they're the right services, because I don't think we're doing enough. That would be meaningful, not just saying thank you for being on the land when we shoot off our mouth during a speech.